All right, so we're continuing our talks on what is beyond good and bad. Good and bad has become way of life for us. We always look at anything and you try to decide whether it's good for me or bad for me. Whatever you do, me becomes the most important thing in the world. But the problem is there is a lot more to the life than just living in that good and bad scenario. Because the farther you go inside, more and more rewards are there to find out actually what is beyond good and bad. Our whole life goes and passes by between good and bad. We shuffle all the time. We think that something is good, we run towards it. We think something is bad, we run away from it. In that run all the time, we get tired, and by the time the life is gone, and then we don't get anything out of life. So if we try to look around and pay a little more attention to our own life, because our body and the outside world is not the only thing that life is created out of. Within us, there is even a bigger inner life exists that none of us we really pay attention to. And those in that inside structure of your mind, of your bhav, of your intellect, if it's your soul and your Paramatma level, all those things are the driving force behind your body and the body that is responsible to perceive the world. So you have to look at the whole thing in totality. You cannot just enjoy one part and run away and get tired and then lose your life. But knowing the whole thing will give you the experience of your lifetime. Because the God creates all the time. Everything is being created all the time. Every second we are being created. As we speak, we are being created. We inhaling molecules, exhaling molecules, inviting thoughts in our heads, giving the thoughts to someone else, changing their life. All this continuous process is going on. And we are one of the creations, ourselves. Now, when you say something is good or something is bad, you're trying to judge the God, basically, saying that whatever is created, I don't like it. Now look how small you are with billions of galaxies, and now there's billions of universes. Right. We are nothing, and yet we keep on giving our ideas to the world that this person is good, this person is bad. So goodness and badness is dividing us, basically. Our mind is dividing the whole thing. So that's Dvait. And when you get a glimpse into Paramatma, that is Advait. When you rise above it, then your ideas of goodness and badness and everything falls over. And it's like you had a very tiring journey, and you travel to the mountains and forests, and you got really tired, and then you come home and you relax. That's when you say, all right, now I have peace. So that's how the Dvait is suffering. Dvait is journey. Dvait means journey. I don't have this, I want this, and I want to do this. The journey starts until you get that, and then another journey, another goal, and journeys after journeys after journeys we keep them. We have never rested. It's like you go to the big parties and you have nice fancy clothes. In the beginning you want to show off that I wear this and I have this and I have that and all that, but after a while the clothes are not necessarily comfortable. You come home and you have a worn out jean, you have a cup of tea and then watch TV, and then you're
most relaxed.
Right, the most relaxing thing. And that's the feeling you're going to get when you reach to Paramatma. Paramatma is you. You are Paramatma. Your soul is connected to Paramatma. And at that level, there is nothing but peace, because there is no journey anymore. You have reached your destination. So that's what is beyond good and bad. Suffering we have done enough. But now is the time to rest and enjoy the peace and freedom and happiness. So that's the journey we want to take. So we have desires, we work for our desires. Once in a while, it's a good idea to have a state of mind which is desirelessness. Desirelessness will be thoughtlessness, because now what are the thoughts for? Thoughts are just instruments that's given to us so that we can carry out our desires. Thoughts control the body, and the body does the things that we want to do, and everything goes on. But once in a while, it's a good idea to go in a state which is thoughtlessness, where you don't even have any thoughts. Thoughts are tiring, because thoughts are telling you that you don't have this and you have to have this, to become happy. Simple. Whether it is food or sex or drugs or alcohol or women or man, doesn't matter. Ultimately, your dissatisfaction has to be there. Then only you will do something. Otherwise, why would you do it? So that's why, like we talked about last time, that people want something from someone else. And the direction they have chosen is wrong. What they are looking for, that ultimate peace, ultimate comfort, and ultimate happiness, is inside. So our direction is wrong. People get married and they expect happiness from the spouse. The spouse cannot give happiness because spouse does not have capacity. Happiness is the second nature of God, is the second nature of Paramatma. That's within us. Instead of us exploring, going within, we expecting from somebody else. And then we complain. When they cannot provide, then we complain. And then who is to be blamed? Our direction was wrong. We were looking for oil in the sand. Sand cannot give oil. Sand is sand. No matter how much you crush sand. So same way, we cannot provide them what they want either. So dissatisfaction is both ways. And that's why we sing Vada Tera Vada. Daman mein tere phool hai kam, kaante hai zyada. Right? So we complain that our marriage is not working out. Because obviously because we expect too much. And that's the problem. So your desire for love and desire for happiness, your desire is real. I cannot argue with that because you want to be happy, and who doesn't? Everybody wants to be happy. It's just that you're looking at the wrong source. It's like you're going you want to go to the river and you're going to the downtown. The river is that way, downtown is that way. Just the direction is wrong. Your efforts are good, your intentions are good, everything is correct, except your direction is wrong. So doing all the other rituals and all that have no value. Until you go within, you're not going to find Paramatma. So what you do outside, you don't have to change anything. But you can rise above all these things. And that's why we talked about bhav and love and the offering that you can give it to unconditional love, meaning you drop your conditions. You don't want anything anymore from anybody else. But if in case they can have something from you, you would want to give. So the giving is a flow of Paramatma. Giving is the nature of Paramatma. Like we talked about, Paramatma is the ultimate giver because he cannot take anything. Whatever he takes is him itself. Flowers is another God's creation. So giving is the nature of Paramatma. So that's why if you, in the real sansar, in the real society, if you start practicing those things where you drop your own conditions, you're doing nothing but dropping your own ego. I don't want anything. What I can do to make someone happy. And that is the total transformation, 180 degrees. For the first time, you have started going within instead of looking for things. You think the life has something to give it to you. And that's what we're always looking for. When you stop thinking that way, the life becomes beautiful. Because now, the life becomes your child. You are bigger than the life. You can do something for the life if you can. If you cannot, that's fine too. But at least you don't want anything. Your beggarship is gone. You become a king. And being a king is the pleasure. Paramatma is the ultimate king. So that's the way to do it. But it's like we putting our sticks. We are like a blind man with a blind stick walking around, and we're trying to like look around, banging here, banging here, banging here. We're ending up with the furnitures, we're ending up with the walls. We're looking for the door where we don't have to bang anymore. We can just walk through. But we are blind. We have kept our eyes closed. It's like a newborn chicks. Their eyes are half closed. They don't even know the world. But now they grow up, they mature, and they see the whole world, and they fly. But to do that, our vision has to be developed. The vision is within us. So, if we want to take that journey towards Paramatma, to look for that door, we need, and Paramatma has gifted us with so many beautiful things. Like we talked about, the body has been given to us. The body is there, the mind is there, and then above the mind is the bhav. Like we talked about, bhav is the love. That has a lot of power. Bhav can change everything. In fact, the whole world is operated by bhav. Because bhav is something that's your firm belief. Like in the middle of night, somebody wakes you up and ask you something, it doesn't change. Like being a male, it just cannot get out of you. That's your vow, that I am this and I am that, that I want this and I want that. But our actions a lot of times disintegrates with the vow. So if we really sit down and analyze our own mind, then we realize what the bhav is about. Bhav is very powerful. I gave an example of so many motherly love. They can do a lot of things. And they sacrifice themselves completely. They even die. People even die for their own children to make them survive. They would do that. And that is the power of bhav. But we have to ask ourselves that are we synchronizing with our true bhav when we are acting outside? We donate. What are we donating for? We're looking for recognition. Put my takti up there. Is it tax deductible? What am I going to get out of it? You're not a donor.
You're a beggar.
You're a beggar. So you're worse than a beggar. The beggar at least admits that I'm a beggar, I don't have anything, I want it. You're not even admitting. You wanted to make it everybody look like that you're giving, and yet inside you want it. Now who's going to be the judge of all these things? Only you can. How can I know what is going in your head? Only you can. The honesty is the first step. If you are not honest with yourself, you cannot meet Paramatma. That's the first important requirement, that you have to be honest to yourself. You don't have to tell anybody, but you go within. You take a look within, and what was your bhav behind doing all these things? So the bhav is a lot higher than your thoughts, and thoughts are the one which ultimately does the action. So bhav, vichar and kriya. So the importance of bhav is very important. Now the bhav can be love, but bhav can be bad also. If you train a kid in a Muslim brotherhood and then train him to be a suicide bomber, he will drop everything. He will give his family, he will give all the pleasures of life and everything. What is that? That also giving up his ego, but with a higher purpose that has been embedded in his head. But it still is bad because you end up killing people. So bhav does not have to be good all the time either. So even at the bhav level, there can be good and bad. But good and bad, who decides at that point? Now, the real goodness of world, we want to go above. So our set of instruments which are given to us, we have to understand it. And the only way you understand, you have to systematically study it. And the study involves thinking about all these things. That ultimately it's your bhav. Once you go within and observe your internal mind structure, you will realize that yes, I did this, but I wanted something out of it. So inside, I am a beggar. I am not a donor. So all this analysis will tell you. It's like tools which are given, like a surgeon. The first day in a surgical fellowship is given set of instruments. What is this? What is this? You have to actually study the instruments. Once you study the instruments, then you have to utilize them, and then you become a surgeon. But still, knowing the tools is one thing, but operating is another story. How to use them is another ball game altogether. So just by knowing the tools is not enough. We had one handyman. I tell you, I mean, the guy, crazy guy, drug addict and all that, but you give him a tool bag. I tell you, it just reminds you like you. It's like, it's an art. It becomes an art. He knows exactly which tool to use when, and he gets the work done. And it's an art that they have perfected over years. So the tool takes a different meaning. Tools, everybody has it. Everybody is a body. Everybody has a mind. Everybody has a bhav and everything. How come everybody is not Mahavir? How come everybody is not Krishna? Until you realize what the tools are about and how to use them, then only you can perform something meaningful in life and you rise higher. So those instruments are very important for us to understand. And all those instruments, how can you learn? The only way to learn them, you have to become an observer. You have to have an attitude of a shishya. You are a student, basically. You want to know all these tools. Then at that point, you start realizing that you are nothing, but I want to do all these things. But if you never spend time in learning all these tools about, you're not moving anywhere. You're living your normal day-to-day life like anybody else without realizing the real truth. So outside is darkness. There is no light of consciousness. The observation is a first step that you can take to learn about all these tools. So observation is the light of consciousness. Consciousness is nothing but knowledge. Consciousness is all highest level of knowledge you can have. The power and the light of knowledge is filtering through you, through your body, through your mind, through your bow, through your everything, right? Ultimately performing the action. But when we keep our eyes closed and they say, oh, how come Paramatma is not helping me? He made me feel again in this exam. I did not pass. I even went to Hanuman and gave an ear. Nothing happened. You know, Paramatma does not understand your language. He understands only one language, bhav. Because bhav is closer to him than your talks, and definitely not your actions. Actions have no value if they are not synchronized with your bhav. You go to the temple and you do whatever, but if you don't have the bhav, has no value at all. You're wasting your time and everybody else's time. So bhav is the ultimate doer in the world. Whether we know it or not, it's the ultimate doer. But only when we analyze, that's when we start realizing what we're doing wrong. So we have to rise a step above bhav to find out, is this bhav is something gonna take me where I want to be? If a suicide bomber does a reflection upon himself instead of listening to the garbage from the other leaders of the community, if he reflects within and say, for my belief, is it fair to kill innocent people? That analysis is rising above the bhav. Bhav he has. He wants to do something for the community. So all those bhavs are there. But the rise above is the seat of intellect. Intellect is your ability to decide what is right from wrong. At that level, right and wrong is decided by Paramatma, not by your personal instincts anymore. Because those you dropped already. When you said that I'm going to drop my conditions, even the suicide bomber is dropping his conditions. The same way you're dropping your conditions because you want peace in life. So I'm going to let go my requirements in life so that I have peace in my life. So you're rising above that, but your bhav, whether the bhav is sublime or is material, that's what you have to decide. Then you have to rise above. Am I doing this something for the higher goal, or am I doing something for my own personal interest that has been given to me? So bhav is a level beyond which there is intellect. And the intellect connects you to higher centers and the soul and the bliss. So that's how we have to move further. So the knowledge of anything is what ultimately brings you to cure. Once you know something, that something is bothering you, you will do something about it. If you have a pain in your foot, say, okay, so far you didn't even care about your foot. Say, it's there, it's there. Nobody talks about it. Until it starts hurting in the leg, then you go to the doctor, or you take medicines or whatever. Herbal, non-herbal, Chinese, Ayurveda, whatever. But at least you will do something about it. That part of your body gets the attention. That's why the word Vedana and Ved are derived from the same thing. What is Vedas? Vedas fixes your suffering at the mind and the body and the soul level and at the bhav level. So Vedana is the awareness of the part that is bothering you. So Vedas is basically make you aware where your problems are. Your stress, your anxiety, your sufferings, where are they located? So calling Vedas as a sacred text and bowing down and throwing some kanku and chandla and all that does not do anything. What is Veda? Try to analyze the meaning of Vedas. Vedas is make you aware or where your suffering is. And when you have no suffering left at the body level or mind level or bhav level or at any level, throw the Vedas away. Vedas are helpful only till you realize. Only Vedas make you realize, give you the knowledge of which part of your whole being, not the body, not just the mind, not the bhav, everything in totality, where you are suffering, Vedas will make you aware and help you rise above. Once you rise above, you write your own Vedas. So Vedana and Vedas are derived from the same root, and that is the pain, suffering. The The suffering can be physical, can be mental, could be spiritual. So all those sufferings have to be brought out. So that is the whole purpose of going higher, is realizing. So bhav was created by Paramatma. Bhav can take you in the wrong places, like we said, suicide bombing. Even if motherly love can be an extreme. If too much motherly love can be detrimental to son's marriage. Mom doesn't want to leave, leave the boy. Things like that. So extremities, in extreme conditions of bhav, because bhav can be labile. Bhav has a lot of lability. It can, once you become, decide on certain bhav, then you know that that is your firm belief. Then no matter what, nothing else can move out of you, out of that part, right? So you carry out the actions because you believe that is the correct option. But that has a problem too. That's why women, they are driven by emotions, but then they don't have stability. So the stability can be given only through the intellect. So the intellect has to rise, and the intellect can be created by the power of observation. And observation is mindfulness, because we are becoming aware of your mind. So the matter, you rise above the matter, and the mind starts becoming more important to you. So the intellect gives the stability to the labile nature of the emotions and the bhav. So the emotions and bhav are considered lower, and yet it is a tool that is given to us by Paramatma, because it binds everybody. If you have a piece of stone on one side, another piece of stone, they don't even know each other. But ultimately, all these things, the life and everything as we know, came out ultimately. But if all the life was an individual life without any communication, without any love, without any bonding, the life would have no meaning. It will go on like, so even at the rudimentary level, Paramatma inserted bhav, motherly love, like we said, is always there, even in a tiny birds, or they protect their young ones all the time. So bhav is a bonding agent that binds, and then only a true meaning of life comes out of it. If you have people around you, but if you don't have any connection with anybody, then has no value. But what comes out of the total integration is the joy that you feel out of, say you have 5, 10, 15, 20 friends, but then what you do with it, what pleasure comes out of it, is the gift of Paramatma. In spirituality, 2 and 2 is not 4. 2 and 2 is 5. The extra thing, that is possible because of the bhav, love for each other, love for friendship for each other. All those things brings out the ultimate product. We always give an example of, Osho once he went to look at a waterfall, and he went in one of the friend's car, and the driver, was also in the car, and then they had to walk some few yards before reaching the waterfall, which was located in a very beautiful mountain scenery, and there was a nice view and all that. So Rajneesh said that why don't that told the driver that why don't you come along also, and so you can enjoy this beautiful. Like, after all, thousands and thousands of people are coming to see it. So the driver says, "What is there to see? There is a rock, there is a tree, and there is a water. What else is there? I see that all the time." He doesn't see the beauty that is created, the ability to appreciate what is created out of it. That is the gift of Paramatma. See, birds also carry out their maternal instincts, but their maternal instincts are just maternal instincts. To rise above that, they don't have that capacity. So humans have that capacity to go rise above the bhav, and that only we have. They don't. So
same thing with humans. What do we have as blood?
Right, yeah, exactly. But what comes out of it, same thing your son, same thing your wife, or same thing your friend, or there's all pieces of flesh and blood and bone and everything, and calcium. What's that?
The driver
He did not have that vision, exactly. So the spiritual, the view of life is you disregard the people's differences, the differences that differentiates you from them. You disregard their disabilities. You disregard their incapabilities. They may have some sufferings. They may have whatever reason they may not be meeting up to your standard. You drop all these things. Then only you can have fun. What do the children do? The same thing. Not consciously, but subconsciously or unconsciously. They do that. For them, it doesn't matter who the other person is. He just wants to have fun. So like I always have that, I go to Shanil's house, right, my son, and then like so far we have 3 doctors, like Shanil, me and my daughter-in-law Sapna, right? So 3 are doctors. My wife always feels left out because all we talk about is medicine. Oh, this patient and that one. So come on, guys, so we have to make an effort. But now Niku is here. Or Niku, they all are the same. Niku wants grandma all the time. Now grandma feels so important, that the importance that she never got all. Because for a child, everybody is equal. And we put him on a swing and he says, he won't calls me, grandma, grandpa sit here, and then calls grandma. You sit here too. So we feel so good. So that's how we should live our life. We drop the people's shortcomings, and they may have differences. It doesn't matter. Drop all these things, then only you can have enjoy relationship with everyone. So that's the gift of Paramatma that we have to understand. So bhav can be very labile though. It can still take you to wrong places. So God has gifted us with the intellect. So what do we do from this point onwards? We do have bhav. Supposing you do sit down and analyze the bhav, that okay, this is my bhav, this is my, I have to fix that bhav, but how do you fix it? Supposing there is a fixing needed. Say you have a bhav of accumulating, holding all the time, and you want to analyze it. Only you can go and within and say, okay, I'm not somebody who believes in giving. I'm the one who wants everything. And examples are everywhere. Everybody has that bhav nowadays. Like I said, all these religions are one of the worst places. You being a Hindu temple or mosque or anything, they are just set up in the name of gods and all that. But there is nothing but receiving. There is nothing but receiving at that end. Even the bhaktas who come, they want to receive everything. And the temples want to receive. The receiving is always there. The giving is never there. And so, until you realize what your bhav is made out of, so to rise above the bhav, what happens beyond that? That's what we're going to talk now. So, what comes in the way is our ego. The ego makes you decide that this is what you want to do in life. We cannot drop the ego, because bhav, once we have certain bhav, and we believe that that bhav is the only correct bhav, and we operate basically. So if I have a bhav of holding things, then no matter where I go, I'm looking for my benefits. I don't want to give anybody anything to anybody. I want to receive. And that at that level, that is decided by the ego. That my ego is, this is what makes me decide. So dropping the ego, like we said earlier, you drop your requirements and the pleasure comes. You drop your requirements from your relationship or everything, and you feel like giving something, the pleasure starts. So the same way, the ego is the stumbling block. So dropping ego is the number one thing. At any level, even at the bhav level, you want to be independently analyzing your bhav. And then you say, am I in a giving mode or in a receiving mode? Am I trying to squeeze everything that is available out of life? And it's not just the money, even other things. Looking at people, I want to grab things, this and that, and all those things. We are always in a grabbing mode. So to rise above, then only you can do it. The emotional lability has to be reasonable. Otherwise, you cannot reach to Paramatma. And not meeting Paramatma is a waste of life. It is the biggest sin of life, is to miss out on Paramatma. Because He's the one who created you. He's the one who is operating you. He's the one who is going to destroy you, take you back, make you run, make you live again. All this thing is operating at such a high level. And if you don't reach there, what have you done? Whatever you have made is going to go to someone else. Someone else is going to enjoy whatever you have worked for. But what did you do for yourself? And that's the real thing that we have to ask. It is the biggest shame of life for not meeting the Paramatma. And the death of the ego is the ultimate death you can have. You had a chance to defeat death. Physical death is nothing. Physical death is happening to you every single second. Every single second you drop some ideas, you're picking up new ideas, you're changing your life from this point onwards. You drinking, you eating, all this thing, continuous process is going on. Death of a body that we call death is only from the sansaric point of view. But there is a continuous change. Change can happen only if the death and birth are there simultaneously. Every time you pick up a new idea, your old ideas is dying. At the mind level, you're dying all the time. But when you drop your ego, that is the ultimate death. You could have defeated the death, but you didn't. And you succumb to the death again. And again, the death comes and you start crying that, oh my God, I'm going to miss my children, I'm going to miss my grandchildren, and this and that and all that. You never rose above the death. So, going within is the most important thing to do. Then only you know yourself. Once you know yourself, then you can do something about it. Once you know yourself, then you realize that where the suffering is. And Vedas is what makes you aware where your suffering is. I mean, people accumulate millions of dollars, they're still not happy. Why is that? If you think that accumulating money was the ultimate solution for the whole life, then Bill Gates should be the happiest person. But he's not. It's all relative. So ultimately, the happiness is within. So knowing yourself within is the most important thing. You have to start reflecting upon yourself, what you are made out of. What is your true nature within? Then only you can do something about it. One of my secretary's daughter got a ticket. She was driving at 85 miles an hour. So my secretary asked, why did you do this? He said, well, I was just going with the flow. Meaning everybody was driving at the 80. I said, I just gave my driving exam. I said, there is nowhere in the book says you have to go with the flow. I said, if the limit is 65, you go 65. It doesn't matter what everybody else does. So asking yourself what you are made out of is the most important thing. Whatever suits you best is what you should do. Because in that lies the key of success in the spirituality. If you are not a bhakt, don't waste your time in the temples. If you go to a temple and all you do is complain about it, then this is ridiculous, it's not for you. Don't bother going there. If you think that, oh, pujaris are bad and this and that, and you complain about that how the temple is being operated and this, it's not for you. At the same time, if you want to go on a dhyan marg and you cannot do it, because going above the bhav requires intellect, requires a lot of reflections, a lot of patience, a lot of hard work, and a lot of analyzing. All this manomanthan, the analysis at the mind level has to be done. If you are not cut out for that, the Gnan marg is not for you. So every marg is not for everyone. So we have to be honest with ourselves and find out which path will take you further. We have one of my patients, he goes to Hariram temple, and he always, I always complain to him. I said, these temples are nothing but, as you know me, right? They are the places where, people are taken advantage of, and, they have one speaker comes in, he invites them free, and then make $10 a DVD, and then just all this thing. And he says, yeah, Dr. Shah, you're right. But you know what? I don't look at those things. I just look at it, what I get out of myself. That's it. His answer was simple. I said, I go there for myself. Even that $10 DVD, if it changes my life, it's worth it. Or if I go to the temple and if everybody is coming for food or socializing, but if I go to synchronize with Paramatma, I disregard. I don't look at anybody, what they're doing. So he's a true bhakt. And bhakti is for him. And believe me, all these different paths ultimately all merge. But you have to decide which path you want to take. Henry David Thoreau was one of the greatest philosophers. He lived in Boston. And he never went to the church. The time came when he was going to die, and he was on his deathbed. And to give the last rituals, the priest, as usual, comes. And the priest knew that Henry never came to the to the church. So he says, finally, and he thought that he will be very vulnerable at the time when he's going to leave this world. So he will be very vulnerable to my preaching. So he says, Henry, are you now ready to reconcile with God? So Henry said that in my whole life, I never thought that I had any differences with God. Whether I came to the church or not, Paramatma was with me all the time. And I was always synchronizing. His method was different. Just by going to the temple does not make you spiritual. And not going to the temple does not make you non-believer either. You can still believe in God and not go to the temple. And you can go to the temple and not believe it. Ultimately, your actions have no value. It's the bhav. What bhav you're carrying with you is the most important thing. So to uh, I lost my. Can you stop it for 1 second? So we want to rise above the bow, and we want the stability in the ultimate that's going to ultimately affect. Uh, we like things in life. The good and bad is decided at the bow level. That I believe that there is something to accumulate and this and that. Sometimes emotions take you in the wrong places and all that. To give the stability to rise at the intellect level. So now the paths separate out. Gita says there are 4 paths you can take. So Krishna says. So he says the first path is karma yoga, where you keep doing your job, whatever you have been born with. You start your work, you start doing, coming out and functioning in this society with the idea of accumulating money or whatever. But you keep doing it. And little by little by little, Krishna says, offer it to me. Don't think about yourself, of accumulating more and more. At some point, you will keep working, whether you're getting paid for it or not. The reward becomes immaterial, fall becomes immaterial, karma becomes the most important thing. You talk to a lot of these people who never retire. Why? I mean, we have 95-year-old doctors working sometimes because they're just so dedicated. They are beyond everything because their personal goals have dropped. Their personal requirements have dropped. Ego has dissolved. For them, helping people is the only issue that they can do. So doing an activity but not trying to get anything out of it yourself to satisfy fame, recognition, money, or all these things become secondary. So that's one way of dropping the ego. There was a case of a brain surgeon, actually, a neurosurgeon in this past winter, when in the heavy winter storm, he walked, because there was no transportation of it, he walked 10 miles to go and operate on a patient, and then he saved his life because there was nobody else could have come. He was on call, and he walked 10 miles in the snow. And then they asked him, he says, that's really amazing. He says, no, I was just doing my job, that's all. Whatever it took me to do, I just did it. So doing your duties without any expectation also is one of the methods to rise above your day-to-day life, drop your ego, and then surrender to the higher level. Another is the Hatha Yoga, which is all these yoga and asanas and pranayams and all those things also has a capacity to take you higher inside, because the yoga, the way it is interpreted and being done, is totally different than the way it should be taken. That's why we talk about chakras. And every time you perform the yogas, you have to concentrate on the chakras. That's why all these things have been taught. And the more you go within, then you forget the outside world. I mean, I saw the documentary Yoga Is on Netflix, and I mean, these are the Western yoga teachers. They were the last people you would think that will be spiritual or anything, but they do. It happens. They do it for hours and hours of yoga every day. And they rise above and they say, we find the truth that everybody is connected. Disregarding the way you look or the way you smile or the way you talk, they're all connected at the same level. So all these things can happen with very, very dedicated practice of all these postures and all these things in a really prescribed way. Because that's what the Iyengar says the same thing, the one who popularized yoga in the West. He said, I want to get them at the body level because it gives you fitness. But that's not where the meaning of yoga stops. It's a lot higher than that. So you have to start going within. And then once they go within, they realize the fruits of life. And then all of a sudden the life becomes more joyful, more happy, and content. And all these things are rare in the Western society. So third thing is from rising above the bhav, the third path we have to take is the Gnan path. And the Gnan path involves a lot of intellectual discussions. And every argument that you come across, you argue against it. You use science. Whatever tools it's available, you use. You try to defeat everybody. But getting stuck at the knowledge level also is a pitfall in that. Because then that's all you do. And you never rise above it. But there is a lot of pitfalls and every path has a pitfall, believe me. In Karma Yoga also you can have pitfall, like you keep on accumulating and never really think about giving it to the Paramatma. The same way at the Bhakti level, You can keep doing rituals and never think of Paramatma. So all these things have pitfalls, and that's why it is very important for us to know what is our inner makeup. If our inner makeup is oriented towards bhakti, you should take bhakti. If not, you will be wasting your time and energy in the wrong fashion. So the knowledge itself creates a lot of questions. At the intellectual level, people have questions, then you try to get answers. And when ultimately all the questions disappear, all the questions are gone, that's when you realize the limitation of intelligence. The intelligence that we have serious examples of, several examples of governors and CEOs and all that. They're very highly intellectual people. But without the intellect, which is the capacity to know the right from wrong, they have gone into horrible places. Spitzer, Clinton, all those places ended up doing stupid things in life, despite their highly intellectual capacity. So intelligence is also a limitation. So on the path of Gnan, you can get caught. You can talk about scriptures. You can describe it to other people, chant all the slokas and all this thing, but if the practicing is one thing and knowing about all is another thing. The same way, knowing about the instrument is one thing and operating on the brain or heart is another thing. So operation is entirely a different thing. Life is an actual practical laboratory where we can practice our knowledge that we can gather from inside. So once you realize the futility of intelligence importance starts dropping. Then you start focusing on something higher, something better. Intelligence never gave you the pleasure that you were looking for. All it did was make you look better, make you look smarter than someone else, make somebody shut off in their talks that my philosophy is better than your philosophy and this and that and all that. But was that a joy? There is no joy. How many times you go to a party and come out as a winner thinking that I defeated all of them and you still have joy in your life? You don't. Instead of that, rather not talk about any discussions, any kind of show off or anything, just have a plain, clean fun, like my grandson does. That's what life is about. You know everybody. My father goes to a party. At the end of the party, everybody knows him. Everyone knows him. He will go and talk to the janitor or the guy's housemate who's helping in the party, and he speaks Spanish. He starts talking in Spanish and this and that. For him, everybody is the same. It doesn't matter. And that's what's more important. That's what makes you realize that intelligence has also its limitations. It does not bring you the joy and the happiness. It just gives you satisfaction of relative. You're still in duality. You think that you're better than somebody else. That's all. But that dual pleasure is not a real pleasure until you find somebody else who can shut you out. And then it's another story. So one time there was an example of a Gnani who came to Ramakrishna. And he was very famous, and he had a lot of logical, he had read all the scriptures and very logical and all that. And he wanted to prove Ramakrishna wrong, that all this, talk about this, devotion and bhakti and all that is wrong. Gnan marg is the best and this and that. So he came with a very, very heated up mind, and he started setting that. So what do you have to say? Argues and this, your methods are wrong, and what is there bowing down to Kali and this and that? You're wasting your time and you're making everybody also do the same thing, this and that. And Ramakrishna didn't say nothing at all. All he did was just keep looking at the sky. So finally, half an hour, 45 minutes later, the guy says, what are you doing? Why are you looking at the sky and what are you saying? He says, all I'm saying, this much intelligence and you still have not reached Paramatma? I feel sorry for you. So, even intelligence is only a tool that you can use. And yet, don't disregard it either. Intelligence is extremely helpful. Again, what is your makeup? If your makeup is argumentative, if your makeup is scientific approach to anything, then bhakti is not for you. Gnan marg is the only one. But no marg is easy. But above the bhav we all have bhav. And we have vichar and we have kriya. But those are material instruments that's given to us. So everybody has it. To rise above is the tough part. And once we analyze all these things, then we start rising. And then In the Gnan Marg, ultimately the power of observation has to come in at some point. And with the observation, the awareness comes into the picture. And awareness is where it's 100% concentration on your mind. What your mind is doing, is this bhav gonna take me to the right place, wrong place? You experience the infinite space within you. You experience the Paramatma within you, and you decide whether you want to connect to him or you want to connect to the material gains that you have lived your life so far of duality and suffering. What do you want to do? The intellect will make that decision for you. Once you receive those pleasures on the path of meditation, all the pleasures that were coming so far, cheating people, holding this, that, accumulating, all these things will automatically drop off. And when it drops off, only Paramatma shines. So on the path of Gnan, the meditation is one of the most powerful tools that you can use. So, and if none of these work out, Bhakti Marg is always there. Bhakti Marg is easy, but it's very difficult also. Because in Bhakti Marg, you have to drop your ego right from the beginning. All the other marg you take, the ego drops by itself eventually, but a lot of hard work you have to go through. A lot of intellectual discussion. Why is this? Why is that? Why is that? All these things. Or Karma Yoga, you do your job all your life and then maybe something will happen at the end. The same thing, Hatha Yoga and all the postures and yogas, and it may help, may not help, we don't know. A lot of uncertainties. In Bhakti Marg, you drop your ego right there and then. You accept that everything that there is Paramatma. But saying is easy and doing is another story. And you say, well, I cannot do this, I cannot do this, I cannot do this. I would rather just go into bhakti like everybody else, But like I said, action has no value. Bhav. At the bhav level, to drop your ego is very difficult. Something that you've been holding on to. It's almost like cutting off your head that you've been walking around with in your part in the society. You talk about bhakti, and then as soon as you hit your car with the bhakta's car, and then you see what happens. You did this to my car. And the fight breaks out. Bhaktas are supposed to devote themselves. Whatever happens in life, whatever comes in the lap is given by God. Good thing, bad thing doesn't matter. That way their definition of good and bad disappears, because everything is good for them. Everything, whatever happens, is acceptable. But again, if your makeup is like that, maybe that is for you. But you have to decide.
But it happens if it happens naturally, not if it is fabricated.
Not fabricated. But that's why observation, to go within, is very important. And analyze your bhav. Bhav is only one tool that is given to us, but analyzing all these tools and rise above it, and then you realize what you are made up of, then you follow the path. So, 4 paths are there, but Arjun is confused. He says, you're giving me too much information. I'm going to ask you which path is the best. So now the answer comes from Krishna. Krishna says, Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasa. Gnan, knowledge, is better than practice, rituals. Mere practice. Doing rituals have no value. Knowledge is better than rituals. Gnanat dhyanam vishishyate. Meditation is better than knowledge. Mere knowledge. Knowledge of self, knowledge of this, knowledge of that. Until you meditate, you don't rise higher. So knowledge is better than so-called bhakti. Meditation is better than so-called jnana. Renouncing, and then dhyanat karma phala tyaga. Meditation, mere meditation also is not good, but doing the karma and giving up your fall. Karma yoga, in a true sense, is better than meditation. Because meditation, you're staying within yourself. You're not going outside to perform. That's like knowing the whole brain surgery, but not actually operating. So you don't get a license to practice until you graduate inside. So meditation is graduation, but to real practice outside is another thing. So until all that transforms into real action, Krishna says has no value. So
you really become a contributor to the society.
exactly, and that's what
the
SSY
main
is about.
purpose.
So Gnanat Karmaphala Tyagas. So Karmafal Tyag is more important than Tyag. And Tyagat Shantir Anantamam. So Tyag ultimately is going to give you Anant Shanti. So knowledge is better than mere practice. Meditation is better than mere knowledge. Renouncing the results of action is better than mere meditation. And verily such renunciation brings you to tranquility. And that's Paramatma. So much today.
Very
Four lines, the last 4 lines.